It looks like now the Eagles are going to have to overcome a refereeing group that looks handpicked to TKC up for a win.
We've had so many great people help you win. So who is your favorite ref?
That's hilarious. No, all the refs are great, man. All the refs are great. They do the best they can. And go out there and play the game the right way.
Is there one that you give a Christmas card to every year, possibly?
Not that I can remember.
I'm sorry, Chiefs fans, but once you take a look at this, shall we say, questionable bunch, I think it'll be nearly impossible to deny. Here is the lineup. At referee, Ron Torbert, umpire Mike Morton, down-in-line judge Matt Causey, and Mark Stewart, respectively. Merle Robinson is the field judge, Boris Cheek the side, and Jonah Monroe the back. The crew is closed out with Kevin Brown as the replay official, who I'm sure will have plenty of eyes on him after what we saw take place during the AFC Championship game between the Chiefs and Buffalo Bills when there were two insanely tight and critical calls made. The 4th and 1 quarterback sneak and the would-be interception turned downfield completion that were reviewed, and both just so happened to go Kansas City's way. You would think that at least one of those calls would have broken Buffalo's way, which, hey, considering how close that game was, could have easily tipped the scales in the Bills' favor. But no.
How did you see it, Gene?
I felt like he gained it by about a third of the football, Jim. Tough play.
Both of them swung in favor of Kansas City and played a pivotal role in helping them along their way to the controversial victory. And Brown is just the tip of the iceberg with this bunch. The next controversial selections, Causey and Morton, both of which have only 3 years of experience. While the NFL typically requires at least 5 for a ref to be chosen to work their biggest game of the year, historically, the NFL has never assigned this many first-timers to the big game of the year. Never. Morton in particular has drawn ire from NFL fans as he bears the unique distinction of being the first NFL referee to work the Super Bowl that has also won the Super Bowl as a player. Now, this may seem like a mere fun fact of trivia at face value, but keep in mind, when he won it back in 1999, he was playing for the Rams, same team that the Philadelphia Eagles knocked off early in their postseason run. So even if it is subconscious, one has to imagine that Morton will have a hard time separating the bitter taste of defeat from his duties on Super Bowl Sunday. Morton was also formerly part of Alex Kemp's crew, a group that regularly landed under the spotlight for the way that it officiated Phillies games. The Eagles always seem to be losing close calls, and there were a number of strange calls and moments, and they were flagged 29 times while their opponents just 22 during those games. Now, I'm not saying that Morton is going to intentionally make calls against Philly, but hey, football is a very emotional game. And if you think a guy with close ties to Kemp, who's also an ex-player who has actually been in the trenches, is completely immune to subconscious bias, well, you're more optimistic than I am. Matt Causey was part of another one of Torbert's dubious crew for the controversial Bears-Dolphins showdown back in 2022 when he made a horrible pass interference call on Eddie Jackson, only to continue then deliver on an equally bad no-call PI that the announcers themselves couldn't believe.
As he tries to jump for the ball,
look at
Cross and pulls him back with both arms.
Yes.
These calls were so offensively bad that the NFL later came out and admitted that they were wrong. That's how you know it was bad.
Messy pocket going deep end.
There's
No
nothing. There's so
flag.
It's also a little fishy that 6 of the referees have no Super Bowl experience in addition to limited professional repetitions that the wider group has. You would maybe think that with the biggest game of the year about to be played in front of millions and millions of fans around the world, that the NFL would want to make sure that it had an officiating crew that was loaded with tenure in order to ensure that they quieted all the noise around it in this postseason. But alas, here we are heading into Super Bowl Sunday with a crew that is chock-filled with newbies. And maybe all that wouldn't be such a big deal if not for the fact that the most senior official in this group has already been at the center of multiple high-profile controversies in favor of the Kansas City Chiefs. Meaning that it isn't just about the lack of experience that people are miffed about heading into the big game, but more so, some of the questionable calls that have taken place during said experience. And we need to look no further than head referee referee Ron Torbert, who was leading the charge during the controversial 5th and down do-over that helped Kansas City knock off the Bengals during the 2023 AFC title game.
What Ron just said is we're going to reset this. We're basically having a third down play do-over.
Torbert, who you may remember is working Super Bowl 59 as well, took the mic and requested the crew reset the play clock to 10 seconds and uttered 11 fateful words.
The play clock and game clock will start on my signal.
The Chiefs then snapped the ball, and the Bengals stood strong, wrapping up Travis Kelce after a short completion to force a punt. Andy Reid sent the special teams unit out on the field, but before they could boot the ball back to Cincy, Torbert intervened again.
The ball was snapped, the play was shut down, the clock and should not have started.
Translation: the third down stop didn't count, rendering the stop invalid and forcing the Bengals to retake the field and subsequently giving Mahomes and co. a second crack at converting. On the redo third down, Bengals cornerback Eli Apple was flagged for holding, which meant instead of a fourth down and an actual punt, Kansas City was rewarded with a fresh set of downs.
Holding. Defense number 20, 5-yard penalty. Automatic first down.
Bengals head coach Zach Taylor nearly lost his mind on the sideline. And honestly, who could blame him? His defense did everything right.
But Cincinnati, they've got to be out of their mind with... I didn't hear the whistle, did you?
It wasn't just this inglorious occasion that has NFL fans and media members alike up in arms about this crew. According to NFLpenalties.com, Torbert's crew tied for third most accepted penalties called in the NFL this season at 235, which was the third most yards at 1,958. And this was no anomaly either. Last season, Torbert's crew was second in the NFL in penalties called. These patterns suggest that they'll have ample opportunity to insert themselves into the action that should be reserved for players and coaches. And of course, the list goes on and on with this dream team. In fact, Mark Stewart was another one of the referees who just this year was accused of rigging games in favor of the Chiefs, all when he called a back fumble recovery for a touchdown by the Texans during their matchup this year. And he doubled down too, adding a roughing the passer penalty on top of the questionable incomplete pass ruling. Sure, NFL, why wouldn't we want him to officiate the Chiefs in the Super Bowl? Fans aren't crazy about Merle Robinson getting the nod either. He hasn't been part of the Chiefs saga last year, but he made a brutal phantom PI call in 2023 during a tightly contested matchup between Baltimore and Cincy.
There's speed against speed, ball underthrown. I don't see anything. I don't know how you call it.
So don't be shocked if you see him pull a yellow rabbit out of his hat to bail out Mahomes and co. with a critical pass interference call in the second half of the big game, should they need it. And if it isn't a PI call that saves the Chiefs, it could easily be a suspect roughing the passer or unnecessary roughing penalty that does it, because that seems to be Jonah Monroe's forte. Just ask Titans fans who saw him make a horrendous call against safety Mike Brown for breaking up a would-be touchdown with a nice in the eyes of many clean hit in the end zone against the Vikings back in November of the year.
That should not be a personal foul. He hits him right in the chest. There is zero head and neck area involved.
It was so egregious that Brown told reporters after the game that even the Vikings players themselves went out of their way to tell him the call was BS. Lastly, we have the lone official with Super Bowl experience, Boris Cheek. It is great to have at least one guy with some tenure. He is the all-time leader in games officiated and worked 3 Super Bowls. But, well, he's also been known to get a little testy, like when he got into that altercation with Aqib Talib back in 2010. And you know the level of ego that these referees have. Don't you think that after a long, storied officiating career that he might want to attach himself to history and give the Chiefs a little nudge towards immortality with the NFL's first ever three-peat? What makes this all the stranger across the board is that for as many fans that have come out and complained about the way that the Kansas City Chiefs have been officiated this year, both in the regular season and now in the postseason, there have been quite a few in the media that have stood counter to that, which makes the matters all the hazier. It's almost like the NFL is coaxing the media towards a certain narrative in order to protect its rogue decision. Curious. Very curious. I think that's just a little bit suspicious. Well, let's just say that if you're an Eagles fan, you might want to mentally prepare for some highly questionable officiating moments in Super Bowl 59. Now, no one is saying the NFL is outright scripting Super Bowl 59 like some kind of Hollywood production. Well, I mean, at least we're not. But the reality is this. When you're going up against a team like the Chiefs, a team that has already proven time and time again that they can win without any outside help, The last thing that you need is an officiating crew that inserts itself into the action in ways that might conveniently tilt the scales. But hey, what do you think about the dream team that the NFL has put together to referee Super Bowl 59? Do you think that the Chiefs are now a sure thing? What do you think we're right on? What do you think we're wrong about? Was there anything that we may have missed? Let us know in the comment section below. If you like this video and learned a thing or two, then clicking the like button helps us out a ton. And you know, we really appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, subscribing is a great idea because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching and we'll see you guys next time.